Most people think a blackout means lighting a few candles and waiting it out. They're dead wrong. Because when the grid goes down, really goes down, it won't be hours of inconvenience. It'll be days, maybe weeks of chaos. Your food? Spoiling. Your water? Dry. Your phone? Useless. And the worst part? You won't even get a warning. This isn't about prepping for doomsday. This is about surviving the next few hours after everything stops. Blackouts are becoming more common, more severe, and more unpredictable. And whether it's a cyber attack, a natural disaster, or just a crumbling power grid, the outcome is the same. You're on your own. So, before the lights go out for real, here are the 7 most critical items you need to have ready, ranked from least to most essential. Because when the darkness hits, you won't have time to guess. This is where I urge you to stick around for item number 3. That's the one you'd be least expecting. Number 7. Light. You never really appreciate light until it's gone. Flip a switch right now and a room glows. But in a blackout, flip all you want, nothing happens. And then comes the worst realization. You don't know where anything is. Your hand fumbles for a candle, a lighter, a phone, and suddenly, a room you once knew by heart becomes a maze of hazards. You bump your knee, you knock over a glass, you hear your kids calling from another room, scared, and you can't even find your way to them. That's the kind of dark we're talking about. Not movie night mood lighting dark. Not stormy evening dark. We're talking complete, disorienting, paralyzing blackness. Because when the grid fails, it doesn't dim. It vanishes. Entire cities disappear in a blink, with only the faint glow of stars and the cold blue of the moon to remind you that the sun won't be back for hours. And in those hours, panic takes root. Because darkness messes with your brain. It plays tricks on your senses. It turns shadows into threats, silence into screams. That's when people make mistakes, the kind that turn small emergencies into life-threatening situations. Fires from knocked over candles, twisted ankles from missteps, panic attacks from being disoriented. A simple blackout becomes a compound disaster, and it all starts with the dark. That's why hands-free, reliable light isn't just a convenience. It's a survival tool. Start with headlamps, not the cheap ones you grab last minute at a camping store. Get something that's built to last, that runs on rechargeable batteries, or has solar capability. A headlamp frees your hands, lets you cook, carry, fix, and move without juggling a flashlight in your teeth or under your arm. Then add solar lanterns, ideally collapsible ones that can hang, stand, or clip. They charge during the day and light up the room at night without flames, smoke, or hazard. Some can even charge your phone in an emergency. And don't forget motion sensor LEDs. They'll guide you through hallways, stairwells, and bathrooms automatically, especially if you're trying to conserve batteries. Every room in your house should have a light source ready to go. No digging, no searching. Just one flip, one push, and you have instant control. Because that's what light gives you. Not just vision, but control. Light calms the nerves. Light tells your family, we're still okay. Light deters looters. Light helps you signal for help. And when the world outside goes black, even a single beam can remind you you're not helpless. So if you're building your blackout bag or preparing your home, start by asking, how do I light up the dark without risking my life to do it? Because in the end, panic loves the dark, but preparedness brings the light. Number 6, communication. Imagine this. The power goes out, and within minutes, your phone screen says, no service. No Wi-Fi, no signal, no social media, no Google. You try calling a friend, nothing. You check the news, blank. You wonder if it's just your neighborhood or your entire city, maybe the whole country, and you have no way of knowing. That silence, that gnawing, terrifying silence, is more dangerous than you think. Because humans don't just survive on food and water. We survive on information, on knowing what's happening next, where it's safe, where it's not, what to expect, what to avoid. And when that information is cut off, people don't just get anxious, they make dangerous choices. They drive into blocked highways. They crowd supermarkets that have already been looted. They believe rumors. They trust the wrong people, all because they're grasping in the dark, hoping someone, somewhere, knows what's going on. That's where off-grid communication tools become your lifeline. Let's start with the No AA emergency radio, solar-powered, crank-powered, or both. These aren't just old-school devices for hobbyists. They're direct links to government emergency broadcasts, weather alerts, evacuation orders, even local news when every other system fails. They're rugged, reliable, and built for collapse. No power? No problem. Crank it. No sun? No problem. Crank it. No phone service? Doesn't matter. This thing doesn't care about towers or signals. It works because it was built for this exact scenario. Then there's walkie-talkies, especially important if your family, neighbors, or survival group is spread across a few blocks or buildings. In a blackout, you can't just yell out the window, but with two-way radios, you can coordinate, warn, check in. Suddenly, you're not alone. You're a network. You might think texting is a backup, but even that falls apart when the towers go down. And satellite phones? Sure, they're amazing, but they're also expensive and not in everyone's reach. So the next best thing? Redundancy. One tool won't save you. A stack of layered tools will. Have a backup battery pack or solar charger for your phone. Install offline maps and emergency frequency apps now while you still can. Write down essential phone numbers and addresses and keep them printed, not just digital, because your memory won't be reliable under stress. The most dangerous part of a blackout isn't just the dark. It's not knowing if you're safe, not knowing when it ends, not knowing if it's localized, or the beginning of something much bigger. And without a way to connect, to get even the simplest update, your mind starts spinning worst-case scenarios. And panic, as always, fills the vacuum. So remember, silence in a collapse isn't peace. It's a threat. And the only way to fight that threat is with preparedness and signal, not just hope. Have your communication tools ready, because when the world goes quiet, the right message could save your life. Now, maybe you've got a flashlight and a radio, that's cute, but let me ask you this. What happens when the temperature drops below freezing and you're huddled in your living room, wrapped in a hoodie, praying your breath doesn't turn into ice? That's not a worst-case scenario. That's day 3 of a winter blackout. And if you think food's not a problem because your pantry has a few snacks, give it 48 hours. Hunger rewires the brain. Decision-making, gone. Emotions, out of control. Let's move on to the things most people never prepare for, until it's too late. Number 5, heat and shelter. You can go 3 weeks without food, maybe 3 days without water, but cold? Cold doesn't give you days. It doesn't wait. It doesn't build up slow like hunger or thirst. Cold crashes in fast. It doesn't need to knock. It just seeps into your bones, your walls, your resolve until all of it breaks. And the cruel part? It doesn't even take a blizzard. You don't need to be stranded in the Arctic. All it takes is a few powerless nights in early winter and the temperature to drop just low enough. Your heating system is out. The power company's lines are jammed. The inside of your home starts to feel like a walk-in freezer. The thermostat reads 42 degrees F and falling. You layer up. Hoodie, 2 blankets, socks over socks. But it's not enough. Your hands stop working. Your thoughts get slower. Your muscles tighten. You stop making good decisions, and that's the moment cold wins. People always picture death by cold as some dramatic snowstorm survival story like Jack London or a mountain expedition gone wrong. But that's not how it happens in real life. In a blackout, cold kills in silence. There's no music, no warning, just a quiet, invisible thief slipping through the cracks in your home, stealing your heat, your clarity, and eventually, your life. That's why the smart ones prep for warmth like their lives depend on it, because they do. This isn't just about tossing an extra hoodie in your closet. It's about preparing like your heat won't come back because one day it won't. Think layers. Not fashion, function, wool over cotton, every time. Thermal blankets, compact sleeping bags rated for sub-zero temperatures. Emergency Mylar wraps. And no, you don't need a log cabin in the woods. Just know how to turn your bedroom into one. Pitch a tent indoors. Cram in with your family. Your collective body heat can raise the temperature by 10 to 15 degrees. That alone can make the difference between surviving and slipping. Seal off rooms. Cover your windows with blankets, bubble wrap, even aluminum foil if that's all you have. Block doorways with towels, line the floors. Insulation isn't just a construction term anymore. It becomes the difference between warmth and frostbite. And when it comes to heating, safe doesn't mean weak. Preppers know this. Indoor-safe propane heaters with CO2 sensors are gold. Kerosene heaters, if you know how to vent and monitor them, can save lives. Tea light candle heaters, when used correctly, can warm small spaces. But remember, all of this only works if you have it before the panic starts. Because the moment that first icy blackout hits, people rush stores like it's Black Friday meets the Hunger Games. Heat becomes the most expensive thing in town. And unless you're willing to fight for a blanket, you'll wish you were the one who planned ahead. Here's what most people forget. Staying warm doesn't just keep your heart beating, it keeps your brain functioning. When you're warm, your hands work. Your phone doesn't feel like a block of ice. You can cook, think, move, function. But when you're cold, it all unravels. Shivering isn't just uncomfortable, it's the start of a mental shutdown. And once your thoughts go, so does your judgment. So yes, food and water matter, but cold moves quicker than hunger. It creeps into every crack, tests every weakness. If you don't take it seriously, it will take you. Stock like your life depends on it. Because it does. And if you think that sounds dramatic, just wait until your thermostat hits 38 and keeps dropping. Number 4, food. Hunger does weird things to the brain. At first, it's just uncomfortable. Then it becomes distracting. Then it becomes dangerous. Because when your stomach's empty, your brain panics. You stop making smart decisions. You argue more. You freeze up when you should act. And all of a sudden, survival gets harder. Not because you ran out of options, but because your focus is gone. That's why food isn't just calories, it's clarity. Now picture this. Power's out, fridge is dead, takeout's impossible. Day 1, you're okay. By day 2, you're just scrounging. Cold rice, stale crackers, no protein. By day 3, you'd give anything for a warm bowl of soup. So don't just fill your pantry, prep it with purpose. We're talking canned chili, chunky soups, tuna, peanut butter, MREs, and energy bars that don't taste like drywall. High calorie, long shelf life, no fuss. Throw in a manual can opener. Yes, people forget that all the time. And a compact stove or fuel tabs? Game changer. You don't realize how psychologically important hot food is until you're eating cold beans in the dark. Here's another trick. Ration, but don't starve. A warm meal can refocus your entire family. In a blackout, every calorie is both energy and morale. A small bowl of soup shared together can do more to calm panic than a dozen flashlights. Food grounds people. It brings order. But here's where it gets real. Once local supply chains crash, it's not about price hikes. It's about disappearance. Grocery stores have about 3 days of food. Once that's gone, trucks aren't coming. You'll be on your own. So store what you eat and eat what you store. Rotate your stock. Keep it visible. Make it normal. Because the goal isn't to survive on rations, it's to maintain function. The clearer your head, the better your choices. And in a long-term blackout, your choices are everything. Still think you can get by on granola and crackers? Tell that to your future self after 72 hours of cold dinners and no meat. If you've watched till here, now is where your eyes will really open. So, stay tuned. Number 3, water. The taps go dry. Not in a week, not in a few days. Sometimes, hours after the system fails, your access to clean running water can vanish, and it doesn't come back with a bottle of Evian and a smile. People underestimate how fast their homes become bone-dry desert islands when the grid dies. You won't notice it at first. You'll try to fill your kettle, maybe rinse your face, and suddenly, nothing. That low hiss in the pipes, that's the last breath of a system gasping its final breath. And here's the brutal truth. You need water more than food. Your body can go 3 weeks without a bite, but 3 days without water? That's when organs shut down. That's when your brain misfires. That's when decisions stop making sense. So what's the move? 1 gallon per person per day. That's the gold standard. And no, that doesn't include your pets, your cooking, or the guy next door who thought prepping was a joke and now looks like he might drink from a puddle. You stash that water in every way possible. Bottled jugs, stackable containers, collapsible bladders in the tub if you get a head start. But even that supply isn't enough because water doesn't just disappear once, it stays gone. That's why backup purification is the ace up your sleeve. Boiling? Great if you still have fuel. Chlorine drops? Effective, but check the expiration. Better yet, portable filters, Sawyer Minis, Life Straws, gravity-fed Berkey systems, gear that turns a scummy pond into something you'd serve at a dinner party if dinner parties still existed. And don't forget, storage is just half the game. Access matters. Do you know where the nearest stream is? Can you collect rainwater? Is your gutter system clean or full of pigeon poop and lost tennis balls? This isn't doomsday paranoia, it's simple math. The second the faucets stop, hygiene slips, illness rises, dehydration sets in. Want to brush your teeth? Make coffee? Boil rice? That takes water. And rationing? That's a dark art no one wants to master. Watching your family sip from cracked bottles like it's treasure, that does something to a person. So stock it. then stock more. If you think you've got enough, you don't, because when the water runs out, everything else collapses right behind it. If you're still watching, it means you know what's coming. So stay with me, because next up is the one thing that separates life from death when help isn't on the way. Number 2, first aid and medications. You dial 911. Nothing. No dial tone, no operator, no sirens in the distance, just silence and the sound of someone in your home bleeding, wheezing, or shaking in pain. Welcome to a world where help isn't coming. In a blackout disaster scenario, emergency services don't show up late. They don't show up at all. Hospitals are full, roads are blocked, ambulances are trapped behind chaos, and the trained professionals you've counted on your whole life, they're struggling to survive, just like you. That's when a twisted ankle becomes a mobility crisis. A minor cut becomes a raging infection. A toothache becomes an abscess that can threaten your life. And if you're dealing with chronic conditions, diabetes, asthma, hypertension, mental health needs, you are now your own pharmacist, nurse, and doctor rolled into one, whether you like it or not. So what do you need? More than a plastic box of dollar store bandages. You build a real kit, a combat kit, trauma shears, pressure dressings, burn gel, tourniquets, nitrile gloves, irrigation syringes, painkillers, both OTC and anything stronger you can legally store. And antibiotics, fish antibiotics are controversial, yes, but people are quietly stocking them because they're shelf-stable and better than nothing. And let's not forget medications. You need a 90-day backup of anything you or your family rely on daily. That includes prescriptions, over-the-counter essentials, and even multivitamins, because nutrition goes out the window fast. But gear alone won't save you. Knowledge will. Print out basic medical guides, old-school Red Cross manuals, trauma response PDFs, even a first aid flashcard deck. Because if your hands are shaking and someone's life is in them, you don't want to be Googling how to stop arterial bleeding, especially when Google is dead. Also, don't wait. Practice, now. Use the gear. Learn how to wrap a sprain, close a wound, recognize shock. Get familiar with what bad looks like before it's all bad. Because when it hits the fan, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training. And here's the real kicker. Your first aid kit isn't just for your family. When the world collapses, you become the medic. Neighbors come knocking, strangers cry for help, and you'll either be the one who says, "I've got you," or the one who closes the door and hopes they find someone else. If you've made it this far, you're ahead of 99% of people out there. But don't stop, because the next item, it's the only thing you'll die without in just hours. Number 1, power. You can have the food, the water, the first aid kit, and the blankets. But without power, you're basically camping in the apocalypse, and not the fun kind. Let's get this straight. Power isn't just about keeping your phone alive to scroll through TikTok. It's about survival. It's your light, your communication, your heat, your access to updates, emergency alerts, directions, data, and every tool that makes your life even slightly manageable. When the grid goes down, it doesn't ask for permission. It just vanishes. And with it, your microwave, your fridge, your Wi-Fi, your ability to call anyone for help. Suddenly, you're left with a silent, dark shell of a home and a sense of helplessness creeping in through every corner. That's why power isn't just item number 1. It's the backbone of every other item on this list. And no, candles and flashlights won't cut it. Not for days. Maybe not even for hours. You need power you can count on. That starts with solar generators. Quiet, rechargeable, clean energy you can keep indoors. No fumes, no fuel runs, no explosions. Just control. Pair that with a high-capacity power bank, ideally one that can recharge from solar panels and has multiple outputs. One that can charge not just a phone, but also your radio, a mini fridge, a small fan, even a CPAP machine if you or a family member depends on one. Don't forget about battery packs, AAA batteries, and charging cables for every device. Keep them organized, waterproofed, and somewhere easy to access. The moment the blackout hits is not when you want to be digging through junk drawers by candlelight. And for those thinking, "I'll just use my car charger," think again. If fuel lines are down, and they will be, your car becomes a glorified chair. Gas stations rely on the grid too. So once you're out, you're out. In fact, let's flip the script. Ask yourself this. What would you do right now if your phone died and couldn't come back on for a week? No power, no recharging, no backup. How long would you last? How calm would you stay? The truth is, your power setup isn't about comfort. It's about keeping you connected, focused, and sane. It's what lets you run a weather radio to hear the next storm alert. It's what keeps your kids calm when you turn on a small lamp in a dark room. It's what charges your emergency walkie so you can talk to your neighbor half a block away who might have something you desperately need. Power is independence. Power is security. Power is foresight. You don't want to be the one who says, "I wish I had something more than a flashlight." You want to be the one whose light is still on while the rest of the street sits in darkness. Because when the power grid fails, it's not just the lights that go out, it's people's sense of control. And trust me, those who lose control first usually lose everything else after. Bonus, the game changers you'll wish you had. Okay, so you've nailed the essentials: food, water, light, power. But let's talk about the stuff that doesn't make every list yet somehow makes all the difference. Cash, cold, hard cash. When the grid goes down, so do the card readers, ATMs, and digital wallets. Your fancy banking app? Useless. But a stash of small bills? That's bargaining power. It can get you gas, food, supplies, even favors. Think of cash as your off-grid currency. Tools that work without power. We're talking manual can openers, hand-crank grinders, good old-fashioned screwdrivers, and duct tape. Lots of it. When things break, and they will, these become the difference between fixing it and losing it. Trash bags. Yep, you're thinking, seriously? But waste piles up fast. No garbage collection, no sewer, no flushing toilets in some cases. Heavy-duty trash bags double as water catchers, ponchos, even insulation. When sanitation breaks down, disease creeps in. Don't underestimate it. Board games, books, playing cards. Losing power doesn't just kill the lights, it messes with your mind. Boredom, anxiety, cabin fever, they're real. A deck of cards or a good book might seem trivial until they're the only things keeping your family sane. A go bag. You may not stay put. Fires, flooding, civil unrest, whatever forces your hand, you'll want a bag packed and ready. Include copies of IDs, flash drives with important documents, snacks, change of clothes, hygiene essentials, and backup meds. It's insurance in a backpack. And finally, mindset. All the gear in the world won't help if you panic. You need to train yourself, even mentally, to stay calm, adapt fast, and think 2 steps ahead. Practice a few blackout drills. Run scenarios with your family. Preparedness isn't paranoia. It's peace of mind with a plan. Look, the power might not go out tomorrow, but it will go out someday. And when it does, you'll either be the one helping others or the one begging for help. Start prepping now while it's easy, while it's cheap, while no one's panicking. Because once that switch flips, it's too late to Google what to do. Stock smart, stay sharp, and most importantly, don't be the one left in the dark. Here's the real question. If you could only grab 3 items from this list, which ones would you choose and why? Drop your answer in the comments. We might feature the best answers in the upcoming videos. And while you're at it, subscribe for more no-nonsense prepping guides, because survival favors the ready, not the lucky.